an update on a proposed alcohol tax increase rolled into an omnibus tax bill. We're recording this on Thursday, one day after the state Senate approved an amendment to that tax package, increasing the proposed alcohol tax from about a penny per drink to a whopping 5 cents per drink. That nickel per drink is still a far cry from the original proposal you know of, which was 25 cents per drink, which was ultimately tabled in House Bill 230. It's been a roller coaster few weeks for this issue, and independent journalist Ted Alcorn has been following all of it closely. I spoke to Ted after the House passed their version of the tax package for some context on why meaningful increases seem to be falling short this year as last year. We'll see what happens. Here's Ted. We want to circle back with our guy Ted Alcorn. Ted sat down with us back in mid-February with some other experts in the field of dealing with the results of alcohol, frankly. And he wrote a 7-part series that I very much want you folks to go over, even though we're still in the middle of this fight. It's important. Ted, welcome back to New Mexico in Focus. I really appreciate your time today.
Always happy to be here.
Absolutely. Now, I mentioned HB 230. It was tabled in committee. What happened there? You've been streaming from where you are. Were you surprised? And second, what was some of the arguments you heard that made it go down and be tabled in that one committee?
Well, as you remember, in 2017, advocates brought a very similar bill seeking a quarter drink tax increase. And the measure is meant to impact New Mexico's alcohol crisis in 2 different ways. It's supposed to raise revenue, obviously, that could be spent on alcohol treatment and prevention, but it's also supposed to marginally increase the price of alcohol to discourage people from drinking excessively. And there's a lot of research around the country where states have shown this to have that impact. In 2017, the advocates couldn't get the bill through its first committee, despite a year-long effort to do so. This year was really different. They came in, there's a number of bills related to alcohol that have been introduced. And the tax bill that you're referring to was the most ambitious, again, seeking a similar flat 25 cents a drink tax. And it made it out of its health committee. And then the tax committees in both the Senate and the House tabled it. Now, they table those bills as a matter of course so that they can consider all the bills that have a fiscal impact and put them into their omnibus tax bill at the end. And in this case, that's what's occurred, sort of. The bill that ended up, or the language that ended up showing up, at least on the House side in the omnibus tax bill, includes an alcohol harms alleviation fund. It includes an increase in alcohol tax, but it's a great deal smaller than the sponsors had originally sought. Instead of achieving that 25 cent alcohol per drink flat tax, this is looking at about a 1 penny to 2 penny increase. So the sponsors have been telling me that they're hopeful that the Senate version will establish a stronger increase. They're talking now about a compromise of maybe a 15 cent increase in the alcohol tax on the Senate side, but it really remains to be seen. And there's a long way to go for both of these bills before they're reconciled and turned into law.
The liquor lobby has come out in force, as was not unexpected, certainly. But I'm curious where you sit, what you gleaned from watching some of the opposition and hearing some of the quotes from folks in the liquor lobby about what this excise tax would potentially do to bars, restaurants. A lot of stuff floating around out there, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, the original language of the bill was going to apply this flat tax rate to all producers. And for years, we've given preferential tax treatment to microbrewers, small wine growers, local distillers. And the original language of the bill would have eliminated that distinction. Mm-hmm. So, of course, you definitely see a lot of the local and well-known and popular breweries and the New Mexico Brewers Guild, Distillers Guild coming out in opposition. But the real big guns here are the national or even global companies that sell alcohol in New Mexico. And we know nationwide that the alcohol business is really concentrated. The businesses that make the most money on this are Anheuser-Busch InBev, which sells $50 billion in alcohol around the world. And they have been amongst the most vocal opponents, and they're there at the hearings, and they made arguments that would be familiar to anybody who watched this bill go down in flames in 2017, that it would hurt small businesses. They've also argued that a consumption tax like this is regressive, and therefore it could harm poorer people. One of the members of the Senate Tax Committee said that she was happy to see business going after a bill for being a regressive tax, and she really hoped that industry would be there in the future to also support other kinds of progressive taxation, I think in a kind of tongue-in-cheek remark. But no, indeed, these hearings have been full of the voices of both supporters and opponents. My colleagues at New Mexico in Depth have done some great reporting to show, though, that one of the forces behind the scenes here isn't just the comments that are being made, but the people who are making it, because the alcohol industry has hired among the top lobbyists in Santa Fe to represent their interests there. And we did the math on the political contributions, and the alcohol industry has given about $750,000 to New Mexican legislatures in the last 10 years. That's a figure that the public health advocates supporting this policy measure cannot match.
It comes down to what the general public sometimes feels as well. I don't think I've seen any polling out there or anything. Is there anything out there that you've seen that take a temperature of where the public is in New Mexico on this issue?
I haven't seen any polling recently. In 2017, the advocates supporting an alcohol tax increase did their own polling, which they released, showing that there was support for an increase on this, particularly when people knew that the measure was going to be raising revenue to support alcohol treatment and prevention efforts. And indeed, this bill would not only increase revenues that would be used for treatment services, but now the language is looking like we'll direct more of the existing tax revenues that we already collect to those kinds of services. But legislators they definitely don't govern by the polls, and I'm not sure what information that they're getting or feeling from their constituents. I'll say in my reporting, it is remarkable the number of people that you end up speaking with about alcohol issues who it has had a deep impact on them personally and profoundly. But I think people are a little bit skeptical as well about whether an alcohol tax alone can take care of the state's alcohol problems, which are deep-seated and generational.
That's a very fair point you just made at the end there. And there's been a lot of quotes from legislators who are opposed to this, saying that typical, people are going to drink anyway, no matter what it costs, all that kind of a thing. But the fact remains, Ted, in your reporting and your local partners here as well, 1 in 11 deaths in New Mexico 2021 were alcohol related. And there's a feeling out there that might even be a low percentage when you really sort of parse out, what happens with alcohol in a home. Is it that we don't understand how bad the problem is here? In some regards, I wonder if there's an education that needs to happen with some of our part-time legislators about just how bad this problem is for us.
The stats don't lie, and they are indeed shocking. I mean, I think part of why we don't always observe the harms of alcohol with our own eyes is because it's a stigmatized condition, alcohol dependence. And when people are really harmed by it and they're really physically injured or falling apart, they're in the emergency rooms, they're in the intensive care units, out of sight, out of mind in a certain way. But alcohol killed more than 2,000 people in the state. The last year data we have, the rate of alcohol-related deaths in the state is 3 times the national average. And if you're concerned about fentanyl, opioids, methamphetamine, cocaine, as we should be, these are another big part of the dependence problem in New Mexico. Alcohol killed more than all of those substances did combined. This is a huge challenge, and those moments did get aired in the hearings. I will say, a doctor from the Indian Health, the Gallup Indian Medical Center, talked about watching her 30-year-old patients die with fulminant liver failure, and the representative of the bill, Joan Ferrari, shared that her niece had died a month before in an alcohol-related fall, yielding messages of condolence from across the room. So I think legislators too know and are affected by this issue, and I think rightly they're making it a big part of the discussion up in Santa Fe this year.